Aquarius, stuff away, UFOs and aliens. Because I think we've mentioned them every time. I was looking at my last video just sitting back and I was really quiet the whole time talking. Maybe my show will take off because I have place for something to, watch. And we're going to look at the mantids or the mantis people. The mantids or the mantis people. We have a kind of yeah, look at him. And it's, let me do I think what I have to do, let me get you the screen. There it is. This looks like your neighbor or someone in your, what is that? But they say they're like an insect just because of that head. It would make, they say they're like an insect just because of that head. It would make sense if it had more of a human type head with a forehead and eyebrow like ours and our nose like ours, or something different, but still more. Why would they cross an insect looking feature? I think we're going to look at it where the animation or the actors portraying it have human fingers, because they were saying the mantis and then it pointed and it shows the finger pointing and it was a human finger pointing. With a little bit of process, what it's looking like here. I don't know if I believe the mantid alien story. It's a little bit far out there for me because you don't hear about it very much. And I'm not saying, have you ever even heard about what were the two, and they wound up with the two mutation. But there's the Greys, there are different types and doing the mean stuff, about scaring the heck out of people. Abducted. One of the cases we're going to look at where he had something injected into his body where he thinks they took semen from him for breeding with the guys. There's, let me check your, let's go to this one. Right on, this is Rumble.
Right here on Finaster TV. Netflix and Apple.
Because it was screaming.
Excuse me for
screaming.
Right, yeah.
Maybe they stuck things something down your throat.
I will say one thing. And whenever I was in the hospital a little while after that.
Gallbladder.
I never had an operation in my life.
Do you have a scar anywhere?
Well, I have from other operations, but not from having a gallbladder removed. So they actually did some studies on me. Did x-rays and scans. And they were just blown away that I didn't have a gallbladder and never had an operation removed.
Have you had any side effects from that? Not having a gallbladder?
I mean, I had my appendix taken out. Get my appendix taken out again 9 years after.
Or did it just wind up back?
That.
And you had a surgery for that or anything? You and...
Pipes fell off of a truck and one of them hit me in the head. Had me there. I mean, I guess they did the scan. And as I went through the body on the scan, they said, hey, this guy doesn't have a gallbladder. So they kept me actually a couple of days extra to have doctor's bladder could be missing.
Did it move steady? Look at the ship. Was it clearly defined?
Edges turned down.
When you saw that ship, how close was it to you? What's your last memory of how close it was to you when it came down?
It's fairly close. I'd probably say it had to be
500 feet. And then...
the scale I couldn't tell you because at that point in time, I mean, I was just up there looking at it.
Yeah.
Just looking at it and just like, oh crap. What's going to happen? And at that point, I had no thoughts. I mean,
He's not
nothing.
very specific about the amount
You
of
weren't
time.
afraid, or you just... Or
I was blank,
did that feel like something that you were going through?
oriented. For me, to guess how close it was.
Forgot what happened.
So,
Here's the
not
story.
heat lightning. Look up and spot. I see. Go over here, buddy, or is he going to think I'm crazy? And I kept on watching this thing move. So I literally stopped the boat and I said, Steve, do you see what I see up there? And he goes, wow. We're sitting there looking up at it, and a light up in the sky. You know, it was such a dark night. I mean, you can see the beam go up quite a bit. These were good flashlights. And he's flashing it on and off, on and off, on and off. And, right, so he's flashing and flashing right up above us. But it was very high, that light.
He did it to himself.
I said, you need to turn that damn thing off.
He was flashing that thing with a
And
flashlight.
just saw it starting to come down. And
What a
we
silly.
both, it was almost like a, except the tips went into like a blue. And we were now, granted, we were in the middle of the lake. This is around midnight.
They had
We saw
nowhere to
this.
go. They were in the middle of the lake.
Where was the lake?
It was in Wisconsin,
Wisconsin.
Conomowoc Lake. I assume it's a ship. Shore. But both of our shirts were open. And it was like we were sunburned from our faces down to where the shirts were open to our legs.
Yeah, the thing about this story,
Try to get hypnotized in that missing time. A faint memory in the back of my head.
that's what he's not getting anything. So let's look at the next one. Of Maria, maybe
The time that you remember.
they
this-
started pushing on her because they had to go back because. So here's her story. This is by the
Not 30
premium
washes.
Rumble.
What if I told opportunity? So in 1992, I was at 32, 7 and 9. We had a beautiful home. Life was.
Oh, hey there, Dupsy
very
Daisy. How
average
are you?
On Long Island, I was the neighborhood piano teacher, and everything seemed to be normal.
This is the story
Until one night when I went to
of
bed,
Maria
children were
Cuchilla.
asleep, my husband was asleep. I woke up from our ceiling, and I remember just rolling over onto my back slowly and gazing at this beam of light.
Hang on, let me see if
Next
it's
thing
still
I know,
going.
I feel this surge of energy and
Sorry.
electricity running through me,
There you
and I
go.
felt like an aircraft, like you described earlier. And they were wearing long robes. Window.
They were going to make a mess.
And when a woman who appeared to be a woman, bring roughly around 8 years old, and I just remember,
He'd been taught
and our
manners.
eyes were just locked. And I turned to the being next to me and I said, "Is this my son? What is his name?" And he said, "His name is Elijah." And then I just stared at the boy, and again I felt
Go
this
before
love,
God.
this connection, and the beings were telling me a few things on earth, and that was to tell this story, that this energy took me over again, and I felt myself in my chest, and I kept hearing 32 years old, and I looked up Elijah, and the meeting was a moment of what was lying there just crying. 8 years prior, I had given a child, and I was 3 months pregnant. You see the fetus, you could see the spine, you see everything. The
It was
doctor
like
heard the
sooner than that.
heartbeat. And I'll never forget that moment, because I walked out already 2 days later. I was struck with pain so severe that I collapsed to the floor, and struck with pain so severe that I collapsed to the floor in our home. And my husband had to call an ambulance, and I was taken by ambulance, rushed to the hospital. I'm screaming with pain. The doctor said the fetus could be pressing on a nerve. Relax, relax. Next thing you know, I said, "Doctor, I feel it." So he just expelled the fetal sac. You had a miscarriage. So I was so grateful for having it. "Maria, we need you to get back to radiology immediately." "Why should I come back?"
The missing fetus in the fetal sac.
The receptionist for the doctor, he made her call me and say, "The doctor needs to see you, get down to radiology immediately." It was
I'm
that
sorry.
kind of an urgent thing. Internal,
Sac.
external, he thought maybe I had because he himself saw the fetus. And he was baffled. "You're a healthy woman." It was normal
Mhm.
until a series of experiences.
Critics out there would say, well, Maria, do you have there was no fetus?
There's
It's
No,
called
there were a lot of
redacted.
miscarriages, unexplained, discovering through my research what was happening at release. I also had a bizarre surgery where I knew something was inside me that didn't belong. I had sign it's stress, it's stress. Life went on, and then I felt almost as if I was receiving messages now, because these are the things that started happening to me after seeing Elijah. I would get like messages in my mind, and I just kept insisting, something's wrong, something's wrong. I'm not taking the painkillers. I want to know what's causing the pain. I don't want to cover up the pain. And I insisted on a laparoscopy. So in the afternoon, I wait. Another thing that was bizarre was two free that fit in the palm of his hand, he said, through sonogram or ultrasound. That's why he never saw it. So he actually had to do major surgery. Now, this is another, do I have proof for testing?
Two black balls.
And basically they say it's not cancerous, you're okay. We don't know
Was
what
it biological? Was it biological matter?
he said he literally scooped it out with.
You're not going to believe what this shampoo
Oh,
does to your
brother.
hair. I've seen men go
Let's
from
go back.
this thin, patchy, receding.
Story of just a victim talking about the mantis, what they did.
Huge bulbous eyes, triangular shaped head, the claw-like hand.
Oh yeah, yeah, absolutely.
In terms of the mantis.
Sure.
What happens next? I started getting a really gnawing pain in my stomach.
No.
Many witnesses claim similar stories of experimentation and suffering at the hands of the mantis beings, treating humans as guinea
One lady
pigs,
said that
destroying humanity.
Okay. This one is a story, Napolitano case. Have you heard about the woman that? Let me go back and check your screen for you so you can show. I want to show you the one with the woman. There you go. This story is the one about the woman who floated out of a window. I believe it was in New York City somewhere. And about 12 stories up in a 12-story building, this woman floated out. These beings, and they wondering, how were they going to get out of the window or through the roof? And then they just pulled her right through the wall and window, and they were outside. And she said they were falling into this. And you can listen to while you're trying to get some sleep subjects. So let's go back. Let me just play that part here.
Stuff. She
had a cylindric probe way up stuck in her nose, and they took the imaging of it here, and then she went back and took it out, and they're gone. Other than the initial sticking and poking, you're out until you wake up later and find out what they did. They don't. We're lucky they don't do it to
The first thing we would do is try to figure out their anatomy. We would say, okay, what's this hole do?
I feel like you'd at least try to talk to it or observe it.
That's science.
Nearly 2 years in November
Listen
1980, strange beings as they made their way into the light. They reportedly
They saw
felt
her
guilty for not helping the woman, and one officer had a nervous breakdown, spending
Light and shoot the lady in the head, because obviously
The solution you've offered is shoot at them with their gun.
What do you?
if they reached out to her to avoid contaminating, revealing their names to be Richard
That
and
means
Dan.
just because
Looking
they-
for weeks, Hopkins received a letter. This led an important political figure. End quote. Albeit under the moniker.
Do you see that? That map. Hold on a second. That right there, that's the UN flag. That's the flag of the United Nations. And there's a map on there. What map is that? The azimuth is whenever you strike a line from north to south, you can draw a line. But as you go around, like right here, you can see my curve. If you're in the center and you shoot a bow and arrow and you consider that south, see, there's South America. Here's United States is right up here. Here's Canada. Okay, here's the British Isles, Scotland, Ireland, England. The Iberian Peninsula is in there, and straight. Okay. It goes around the center, but shoot a line this way and it's south. You can shoot a line this way. How would you quantify where you're at from right to left? Grid position. There we go. Now you see my mouse moving. Whenever the mouse freezes, I know I have to go start the recapture. So this is why does the United Nations use a flat earth flag? Or show that, the flat earth, they show people that, the ocean would fall off the edges, and it's Flat Earth Society. Whenever you see that, throw it in the trash. It's a bunch of intel idiot. It's garbage. It's not. It's a disk accelerating. But you don't have to think of it as constantly accelerating. The whole idea, the whole premise of it, I've seen it on maps, and I've seen it personally in the stars and the water above, and I looking down from the glass. See, I did the smacking noise. I'm sorry. Depends on how you can zoom in wherever you're at. I waved my arm over the floor, and we zoomed into this house is a kitchen that I was sitting in. I saw myself sitting in a chair in every direction. And that's all, that whole thing. I thought at first it was maybe some other God's world that's like flat and infinite. I was looking, in fact, I didn't see any planets once I got up there to the firmament or celestial floor. It was all just Earth. You look down, but like I said, so they're looking down on you right now. Thought that you were expendable and useless. It has billions of planets. Our plane. Interesting to know. Anyway, so that's the world. It's also the flag of the World Health Organization. Flag, this flat Earth flag, doing that. They are using the, see, there's Australia. Where's New Zealand? See, maybe it's just the way the flag's moving. You can't see it. But you can see Japan. Over here. You can see, gosh, these parts, I don't see the Indian subcontinent. Maybe it's right over here's Africa.
Albeit under the Mares de Killer, and only Chorus alone, or Linda and a group of. I haven't seen those records.
You haven't.
So they could put a rest. They tried to get the political figure to confess. They couldn't because obviously he'd been mocked forever. He said, "I saw a lady floating out of her 12th-floor window in a
to the United Nations in New York, and it got stopped, and he was just taken, abducted by these aliens. They're not telling the whole story here, are they?
With the two bodyguards during the abduction, also signed the letter.
Two bodyguards.
This letter revealed that the two officers were actually bodyguards on a secure end, looking for answers. If aliens ever come here, it's not going to be got your guns and stuff up into that butthole. Confirmed the object was.
No, that's Linda.
They reached out to her to avoid contaminating. Sometimes it could be like E.T. What if they just want to come and have a beautiful? What the fuck? I just think he said if the officers
Aliens.
Linda multiple
Bright light shining on her, hanging from, and she goes, and then she went floating. Saw that. A lot of people reported. It was a well-known event. I think I even remember calls. A woman floating, something about it to make it newsworthy, something. And if they all saw the same thing, it should be thinking that way. And they felt guilty that they weren't able to help beings around her so that she would fall. Because I don't think so. Am I buffering, or is it just a little rougher? How long ago did you message me? Let's see. How's this? Does it feel? Hang on. How about now? Let's see. Is it any better now with noise reduction and are you buffering or not? You mean buffering on my face? As long as I don't move, pick all of the pixels that. So if you don't move, you get maybe your eyes and your head leans a little bit, but they don't. So, what was the other story that I wanted to look at? There is. Oh, doesn't remember what happened to him either. He's been to therapy.
When I woke up suddenly and saw bluish, and then I told my wife off the bed, and I call thing I see a figure in my doorway of the bedroom. It was a hooded figure. I couldn't see the face. There were small beings. This was.
In a video, somebody filmed them walking through their living room.
Locked. I didn't think that you had to unlock it. It was so small. But at any rate, they didn't bother with that. I've heard that they somehow can penetrate.
It's all about vibration, baby. You have to match frequency.
Different. Essentially call these things.
I've had it.
I hadn't recalled again the details afterwards. Anyway, they took me through the window. There was a bright light in my backyard.
Yeah.
And then the next thing I knew, I was on I was shown a long needle. But it wouldn't hurt. Get that thought in you. Well, but when they started their procedure, it was horrendous pain, the worst pain I'd ever felt. The pain. So again, I'm speculating, but I think they took semen from me.
Buffering. Is it the video buffering or me?
In buffering? That on the table, escorted by two grays over to a molded seating area in the side of the crab.
Your buffering is what it is, Dupsy.
Then down my spine like this, just a gentle touch, and that was that. I was taken out
the texture of the hand like?
Say that again.
For the texture, if his touch felt any different than?
I'm pretty sure I was naked, but the touch I don't recall whether it was. I spinal column. Taken along a corridor again. We were floating, and then bright light at the end. I didn't recall any of that. Neither did my wife. We didn't speak about it for some 24 years later. We were in Ireland, and there was a lady up there talking about her abduction experience. And she said it triggered something in my head. At one point, dream. It was a real event. Therapy sessions.
Engineers that said they were tracked towards it, that made them unable to move their lower bodies from the waist down like a.
He can't remember. He's had regression therapy. You know you were abducted, but you can't remember anything about it, even when you go to regression therapy. I went to regression therapy. I'll tell you my story. When I went, some of you don't know, could be your end. If I move my head like this, does it blur? That's just the encoder not keeping up. If I be still, maybe it'll stop doing it. So my experience sucked it. I just went for a ride, and they told me it was a ride, and we went out and we came back. And I was 6.5 years old, almost 7, in first grade. And I was living in Houston, and we had a house where we had a big, long, one-story home with, the garage down on one end, and then rooms in the kitchen and the living room, and then more rooms down a long hallway. And it was a night, I think I was playing with the stuffed home inside of it, and the neck. I remember this when this thing getting the donkey, like with the truck. I remember I was on the carpet facing toward the bathroom, facing the back of my room toward the bathroom doorway. And I remember the donkey. And I remember suddenly having a conversation with Doe. I can't remember the exact command. And I remember I saw them, and I noticed, and then I looked, they had like suits on, so much of a V. But I did not have shoes on, because I remember I saw their hand, long 4 toes, me like these were giant chicken creatures of some kind, like they're not human. It took the feet, but you know what they did? They read my mind, and they read my thoughts, and they knew that I was afraid of their shoes, and they flop around while they walk. I thought, why would they walk around in those things? I remembered that when I looked at their feet, when you realize like I'm really in trouble, I got that shudder, and they sensed that. And they changed their feet to have black shoes. So they wanted me to go with them and they were going to show me things. And I said, no, not without my mom. Mother asked me, why did you say that? I don't know. It just came out of me. You know, if my mom goes, you know, I guess mom could do everything at that age. So they go and they wake mom. Knew she could see the whole scene and think like them. And she wanted to know what they were doing here and where they wanted to take me. And so she went out to the front yard, but she told me she can't remember how she got to the front yard. She was just in bed. And the next thing you know, she's walking in the front yard. I remember seeing her appear. She had a robe on and the wind was blowing and you could see it blowing in the wind, lit up in multicolors, and it back and sinking feeling, you know, like since I was born, you know, she's in outer space. So then my mom came back. She came in and got me, but I remember her, come with me. There's someone I want you to meet. I watched him. Hang on. Okay, now here we go. So what I did, then I went out and I left and they had me sit in the chair and I put my hands on this panel. It was like a school desk. And I put my hands out flat on the landing gear down and I'm guessing field generator for the you know, some people say the secret is and put it in a top and then one of those flash fields around it that you probably won't like. Am I in the experience? So my mother had boats and we in the waves and us forever. And that was South America. So I would estimate now by having flown at least 5 million miles in business in 60, I would say 1,000 miles an hour. And we were going here and there, but you could not feel it. If you got in the craft and just sat down like you were sitting on a park bench, and you know, once you get up, like if you're on a subway train or a bus, brakes are on, and then when the braking and the accelerating, that's called inertia. And every time the platform of the bus goes through potholes, you know, and you swing back and forth. And inside of these saucers, there is no inertia. My mother, she walked me to the ramp that the door was open down here to just because I didn't feel any. And I thought, well, if you hear the engine rumbling and the things, you know, we're going somewhere. But this thing was just rounded tops and they were shiny and like a small setting with a meadow of grass, like we were in a paddock or a meadow or a vega. And after that, I think you know, I hate to, or they were showing me maybe the Amazon. And children that have been kidnapped have gone and then they free them all. After 48 years, I remembered my 18. I went to mom's house and I said, hey. And she goes, yeah. They were out in oh my gosh, it really happened. The whole way of thinking, oh my God. All these alien stories, which ones I like, which ones I don't. If it was, what this, what that. I don't know why they let me sit and, you know, it's like cow tipping for them. You know, and they're just all their dances. That's what they're doing whenever you're doing in there the whole time. So, what other stories?
Before NASA figured out how to land astronauts on a runway, they had to answer one very
Oh, the space shuttle jet. That's another story. He worked at Mission Control, building the ISS, and send vibration. Good at balancing, oscillating over here. The sonic oscillations going to literally it can cause damage. Wobble. Have you ever been on a bicycle or a motorcycle where the front wheel starts to wobble and you can't stop it? The only thing you can do is slow down and stop because it's not going to stop you either. Or if you cars when they're drag racing and stuff, danger, danger. Wasn't that fruitful? He didn't remember much. Yeah. Maria Cuccia. They have the ultrasound. She's going to the doctor. The sac out. There's no embryo inside. We think it's still in you. So they had her go in and they could not find it. And to this day, they don't know why. And then 8 years later, bright light blinding her craft. And then she's in a room and he's waving at her. That's it. So they let her know that that's her son's world. Whoa, what would that do? You could begin to yearn for him and you don't even know him. So just everything, the theft. Is that I've heard more than one or two and not judge it. Oh, the woman that was floating, flying saucer, woman that saw her that night. Chief, how was it? And the people who have been abducted by aliens, and they told their story and just to see if they could find her, and they found her. And so now she knows that they saw her being levitated into that craft, that knowing that this woman was being, somebody was, I don't know if they were joking or what, but said, if, or shoot at them. And if you, strange ways, strange decisions. So there are a lot of different UFO stories. Mine was friendly. I was playing on the carpet in my room with a stuffed animal and a truck. And then I'm riding in some places and things, but I don't remember the dialogue. And then they bring me back and my mother takes me by the hand back into the house. And I remember the walk. I have another film back to the porch. And I think that the ships did make a slight noise. They weren't completely perfectly quiet. But it's weird how the doors open. There's the way those things work. How they do, how the art in what claymation is, or the stop motion clay, like the stuff that Seth, what's his name, does. Robot Chicken. That's clay, that's stop motion clay figures. They and show like out of the ship will open, and then like one of them opened into a doorway with show through, and then the whole window disappears, and then it looks like you just crawl into this little box with the cool 3 aliens. Trying to achieve 17 all of the figures and scientific facts about and this electron, or where to pick realist narrations. Where do you even start with? You can put them into mathematical models, and I learned how to do that. It's the same thing they do when scientists are looking for an electron. Split the equation into 4 different problems. Stuff like that they do in physics and economics. So that was about it tonight, I think, folks. Unless anybody has an idea, I'd like to talk about, or good to talk about. I have some things on the edge of my he's hurting people. They're the ones that are poking you, getting over what they did. Remember how I said when I was scared of the grays that came to me, I was cool with the way they looked and their faces and their arms, even their fingers. But when I saw their feet with those long bony toes, that was it. That's when I got that fear. That's when the hair on the back of my neck stood up and I shifted. And knew that's the point where you drop a load in your pants or pee everywhere. It's just like sudden fear kicks in and you go into, you've kicked over, now you're in fear mode. And it was from looking at their feet. So they made the feet over their regular feet, the black shoes, to make it look like they had black beings, maybe the same thing. Are they maybe gray beings or humanoid beings that make themselves appear to have a triangular mantis head? The IA rogue people at work, just be a bug-headed looking human that's got, you could go to the gym for that face, that triangular thing. What you need to, looks like you're drooling. That's just nasty looking. I want 10 times as big. Wait till the female gets here. If you don't like this one's the male. Wait till the female one gets here. And me. I think overall, like I said, I've tried to figure out what they came for. What the closest I've figured out was that company called IRD out of Dayton, Ohio, which is where Wright Patterson is. And he worked in a special divisions unit where he studied vibration and was taught all of these things about how to make things oscillate in harmony and change pitch, which is exactly what energy through flux, the way the Earth does through the North Dipole. And all you have to do is you have to have two perpendicular standing straight up at a different frequency, but they both have the same center. So if they're two literally perpendicular frequencies, like one spinning, put and call it an anode, and then everything that's around the edge of the wheel is a cathode. So if you drive energy through that thing, you'll get a weird, so you put in one input of muscle power. There are some people, I saw a man that over Unity where you could start up a generator producing like X with this little generator. He had one that was like a spiral that had a brush that would contact between the spiral, like a candy cane going up a barbershop pole. So he had one brush motor or alternator generator creating electricity with brushes going this way that drove another one that was geared to go sideways on a barber pole shaped steel rod that had brakes in it, but it would move down and you moved with it. And so he had perpendicular, he was creating huge outputs and running these big machines with almost little or no battery power. And he was showing you how to do it, but it all disappeared. I've looked for it in detail with the names of what he was doing that I saw him do, and it don't need a motor. You know, you could just learn how to kick it once and it will go all the way to Nevada, you know. And so who wants that? You don't have to. If it turns the belt and that turns that generator. We used the ions instead of the electrons. A positive state by grabbing a positron. Resistance, and you don't have ohms. It's like the super over unity current direct. And there are models and machines that have built this stuff, but it keeps disappearing and it just doesn't end up in public. You go to print it and gosh darn, it just doesn't stay out. You want to put it up on YouTube, it just doesn't stay there. So let's pray. Heavenly Father, please, we're thankful that we could be here and discuss these topics that are available for us to study and look into and research and ponder on these creatures in thy kingdom. Some trying not to interfere with our work and our lives, but we wonder, what is it that they teach us or trying to teach us? Why in the world? It can't be that they want, are we in conscience? And everything is to those, because several things they've been talking about. So to, in our daily routines, to do better, learn to sift through the haze. And this we pray, Father, and we thank thee. Amen. Stories in Prayer with Alex Aquarius. We've made it until 2 a.m. Started more or less after 12:30, so just about an hour and a half. That's good. Felt right. Felt good. All right. Thank you. Come back and when I was listening to it, the volume